Hey everyone, welcome to the ultimate guide for anime realms. If you're diving into this amazing game, you know it's packed with legendary, mythic, and even secret tier units that can completely change the way you play. But let's be real, rolling for units can be a total gamble, and you don't want to waste your resources on anything less than the best, right? That's why today, we're breaking down the definitive anime realms tier list to help you crush it in the game. Stick around because we're about to chat about which units are absolute must-haves, the ones that will have your opponents trembling. Whether you're aiming for the flashiest mythics or hunting for those elusive secret tiers, I've got you covered. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll know exactly who's worth rolling for and who's just taking up space in your roster. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking units in anime realms. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Luffy, Vegetables, Krillo, Pikoko, Goko, and Geihan. Alright, let's dive into some C-tier units in anime realms. The ones you might want to bring along but won't exactly be writing home about. Think of these guys as the dependable B team. They've got their moments, but you're probably benching them once the A-listers show up. Let's break them down and see what makes them tick. Or not. First up, Luffy. This little fighter comes with a small range and AoE, but hey, the decent DPS kinda makes up for it. You can only place 3 of them though, so don't expect to flood the field. Luffy's like that friend who shows up to help but only carries 1 box when you're moving. They try, but they're not exactly game-changing. Next, let's chat about Vegetables and Geihan, 2 rare units with a bit of sibling rivalry going on. Vegetables edges out Geihan with slightly better DPS and a max placement of 6 compared to Geihan's 4. But both suffer from similar issues. They don't pack much range or AoE. If you're just starting out and need reliable, easy-to-get units, these two can hold the line, but don't get too attached. Now, if you're looking for something with a bit more flair, Pikoko and Goko are solid hill units. Pikoko stands out with its high range for a rare unit, making it perfect for picking off enemies from a distance. Meanwhile, Goko brings decent starting DPS and a respectable AoE. You can max out with 6 Gokos, which isn't too shabby if you're aiming to stack up some early game firepower. Both are like the cool cousins who show up to a party dressed to impress. Reliable, but not quite showstoppers. And finally, Krillo. This rare unit boasts good DPS and range, but it's limited to just 4 placements. Still, it's a decent choice for filling gaps in your lineup if you're short on options. Krillo's like that one coworker who doesn't talk much but quietly gets stuff done. Reliable but forgettable. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Stork, Makunuchi, Killua, Gon, and Ichigoat. Alright, listen up, Anime Realms fans, you ever feel like you're stuck in that awkward middle ground between saving for a legendary and making the most of your epics? Well, welcome to the B tier squad. Those reliable units that might not dazzle like the S tiers, but can absolutely hold their ground if you know how to play them. Let's break them down and see why they might just be the MVPs of your lineup. First up, Stork. This bird's got some serious wingspan, huge AoE, and range for a hill DPS unit that's easy on the wallet. You can place up to 5 of these bad boys, making them perfect for crowd control on those tricky maps. Sure, it's not flashy, but sometimes consistency is what you need to win. Plus, there's something satisfying about seeing a bunch of enemies wiped out in one swoop, right? Now, let's talk about Makunuchi. If this unit were a boxer, it'd be a technical fighter. Decent DPS, multi-hit attacks, but a shorter line-shaped AoE that means you've got to place him smartly. You can have 4 of them on the field, which is great for spreading damage across the map. It's not a one-punch KO kind of unit, but Makunuchi brings steady damage to the table. Definitely worth considering if you need a versatile DPS. And shout out to Ichigoat, the literal GOAT for beginners. If you're just starting out, this rare unit will be your best friend. It has the highest DPS of all the rares, making it a no-brainer to invest in. You can max out at 4 placements, and it's super effective early game. Sure, it's not going to carry you in later stages, but Ichigoat earns its spot by being your gateway to bigger and better units. So there you have it. B tier doesn't mean boring, it just means balanced. These units can make a big difference in your strategy, especially when you're building out a team. Give them a shot and let me know in the comments which one's your favorite. Or if you're riding with Stork, tell me how satisfying it is to dominate with those AoEs. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Golden Friezo, Yuji, Yurio, and Rose. Alright, let's talk about the A-tier powerhouses in anime realms. These units are the perfect mix of strength and style, like the characters that make you think, wow, I actually might have a chance at this game. Let's dive into who's got the moves and why they're worth your precious resources. First up, Golden Friezo, the hill unit that screams ultimate firepower. This guy is all about range and burn DPS, melting enemies from afar with an AoE that's nothing short of brilliant. And hey, you can place up to 5 of these legends on the field. That's like creating your own fiery wall of destruction. The only downside? Your enemies won't even get close enough to admire your setup. Now, if flashy AoE and DPS are your thing, say hello to Yuji. He's got the kind of damage that makes bosses cry, backed by fantastic range to keep the chaos going. But don't let that power fool you. Yuji's upgrades aren't cheap. With a max placement of 3, you'll need to strategize to make sure he's earning his keep. Pro tip, pair him with units that can hold the line while he rains devastation. Then there's Yurio, the budget-friendly legend who's as effective as he is easy to upgrade. Huge range? Check. Solid DPS? Double check. With the ability to place 4 of these beauties, Yurio's basically the best value meal you'll ever get in anime realms. And for all my AoE fans, don't sleep on Rose. She brings excellent DPS to the table with decent range and a massive AoE radius. The catch? Upgrading her will cost you an arm and a leg, but trust me, she's worth it. So there you have it, 4 units that pack enough punch to carry you through tough stages. Which one are you prioritizing? Or maybe you've already unlocked them all? Let us know in the comments which is your favorite and why. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Rage Brulo, Sosuke Awakened, Goju Supreme, Shanks Haki, and Yunu. Alright, anime warriors, let's talk about the real heavyweights of anime realms. These S-tier units aren't just good, they're absolute game changers. If you're not running these in your lineup, you're probably missing out on some serious power plays. Let's dive into why these units dominate the battlefield like they were born to do it. First up, Rage Brulo. This guy is a beast with that insane full AoE attack, and when you upgrade him, it's like he just unlocked his final form. The range? Ridiculously high. The damage? Highest in the game, hands down. The only downside is you can only place 3 of him, but honestly, that's all you need. He's like the one-punch man of units. Game over for your enemies the second he shows up. Then there's Goju Supreme, the master of time locks. This unit is a support character on steroids. Huge range, crazy high DPS for support, and let's not forget, he straight up stops enemies in their tracks. Sure, his AoE is more of a skinny laser beam than a wide explosion, but when it hits, it hits. Throw him in with Shanks Haki, who's dropping full AoE stun attacks with insane DPS, and you've basically got the dream team of crowd control. Together, they'll leave your enemies stunned. Literally. Who's your go-to from the S-tier lineup? Drop it in the comments, and let's see who's got the most overpowered strategies. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Speedcart, Yukiya Al Idol, Koichi, Greybeard, and Utohime. Alright, let's talk about the backbone of any successful team in anime realms, the support units. These guys might not be dealing the big damage numbers, but trust me, without them, your squad will crumble faster than a paper shield in a rainstorm. And yes, I'm looking at you, Speedcart. This little legend isn't just essential, it's mandatory. Why? Because he's the only farm unit in the game. No Speedcart, no money, no upgrades, it's that simple. The moment you unlock him, he's never leaving your party. Ever. Next, let's dive into Yukiya, the Frost Queen herself. If freezing enemies in their tracks is your vibe, she's your girl. Her full AoE freeze attacks can shut down an entire wave of enemies like it's nothing. Plus, she's a hybrid unit, meaning she can fit into all sorts of strategies. Just keep in mind, you can only place 3 of her, so use her wisely. She's not just support, she's style. And then there's Al Idol, the meta-defining powerhouse. This guy doesn't just help your units, he makes everything easier. Need more damage? Done. Want cheaper upgrades? You got it. He's the ultimate team player, but there's a catch. You can only place 1. But hey, 1 Al Idol is all you need to turn the tide of battle. He's the MVP of support units, no doubt about it. Now, let's not forget the rest of the gang. Koichi offers solid range and AoE when you sink some cash into him, though his upgrades are a bit pricey. Greybeard throws curses like candy at a parade, boosting magic damage by 20% for cursed enemies. Yes, please! And finally, we have Utohime, the unsellable, small-range, damage-boosting budget queen. She's cheap to place, but once she's down, she's there for good, so plan ahead. These units might not steal the spotlight, but they're the glue holding your team together. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Goko Super 3, Getu Master of Curses, Aizo Power, Inol Drums, Ichi Dusk, Lao, Jiro Overheated, and Toju Mercenary. Alright, let's dive right into it, because we all know the only thing better than pulling a Mythic unit in anime realms is figuring out who's actually worth flexing on your squad. We're talking meta tier dominance today, and oh boy, do we have some spicy picks. Get your gems ready, because these units, they're the stuff of legends. Starting strong with Goko Super 3, the Mythic Hill unit we didn't know we needed, but absolutely can't live without. Insane range? Check. Crazy AoE? Check. And let's not forget the absolutely monstrous DPS. Goko is cheap to upgrade, so he's a no-brainer for both early and late game strategies. Oh, and did I mention you can place up to 5 of these beasts on the field? It's like raining destruction from the heavens. Next up, let's bow down to Getu Master of Curses, the undisputed king of boss fights. If you're chasing those clutch wins in any mode, this guy is your MVP. His summons scale with his damage, and while the game might label him as a ground unit, surprise, he's actually hybrid. A little bonus spice for you. With only one allowed on the field, he packs so much power that you won't even need another. Moving on, we've got Aizo Power and Inol Drums, 2 heavy hitters you'll want in your lineup. Aizo brings fantastic range, a crazy AoE, and jaw-dropping DPS. Place 4 of these bad boys and you're cooking. Meanwhile, Inol Drums is a true meta unit for all modes, delivering high DPS with excellent range and AoE. If you've got Inol, you're already ahead of the game. And finally, let's talk about some specialist units. Lao is a boss killer like no other, especially when paired with the Surgeon's buff. His DPS goes off the charts. Jiro Overheated is your go-to burn unit, dishing out massive damage despite his slightly smaller AoE. And for all the bleed fans out there, Toju Mercenary is your guy. Solid DPS, good range, and a reliable bleed effect to keep your enemies on edge. So there you have it. These units don't just make the cut, they define the meta. Whether you're grinding story mode or going all out in raids, these picks will make you the MVP of your team. Just don't blame me when your friends start raging about your unfair luck in pulls. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.